Hello everyone! Welcome back to Inspired Ed, where we learn, apply, and achieve success. And today we're going to be tackling AP Psychology, Unit 4 of Emotion, Motivation, Personality, and Stress unit. And we are going to be talking about Part 2, Module 60, which is on the Psychoanalytic and Psychodynamic theories. So let's start with what personality means. Personality is the characteristic pattern of thinking, feeling, and acting. One of the biggest theories of personality is developed by Sigmund Freud, called the psychodynamic theory. It is theories that view personality, emphasizing on the unconscious and importance of one's childhood experiences and how it affects their personality. So let's dive deeper into the psychodynamic theory itself. Psychoanalysis is a type of therapeutic approach which involves intensive and long-term treatment aimed at uncovering unconscious motives and conflicts and its impact on one's life. Using techniques such as free association, dream analysis, and interpretation of transference and resistance. So, free association in psychoanalysis is a method of exploring the unconscious through allowing the patient to relax and just say whatever comes to mind, no matter how embarrassing or trivial. And the therapist believed that the patient's train of thought would lead to patients uncovering their inner feelings and repressed feelings. And so it could be retrieved, reviewed, and released. So Freud's theory mainly focuses on the unconscious, which is a reservoir of unacceptable thoughts, wishes, feelings, and memories. For example, lost feeling in one's hand is caused by fear of touching genitals. Again, this is what Sigmund Freud thought of at the time. And so this is a very nice graph of the personality structure according to the psychodynamic theory, which is that there is 3 levels of consciousness. There is the conscious level, the pre-conscious level, and the unconscious level. So the ego, let's start with the id. So the id is in the unconscious level, and it holds unconscious psychic energy that strives to satisfy basic sexual and aggressive drives. And it operates on the pleasure principle, where it seeks immediate gratification. And then the superego is the pre-conscious level, in which it is the part of the personality that represents internalized ideals and provides standards for judgment, as well as future aspirations or one's goals in life. And then at the very top is the ego, which is the conscious level. So it is basically the conscious part of personality that mediates among the demands of the id, superego, and just reality in general. And so it, unlike the id, it operates on the reality principle, which seeks to satisfy its desires in realistic ways that bring long-term pleasure. So, for example, If Sophia feels sexually attracted to Kaylee, then her ego may satisfy both the id and superego by joining a volunteer organization that Kaylee attends regularly. So the volunteer organization is where the id comes in. Where the superego comes in, where it represents Sophia's internalized ideals of wanting to help people and maybe her future aspirations of wanting to be work in the humanitarian field, hence volunteering. And so in terms of personality development, it is through a series of stages called the psychosexual stage, which is the childhood stages of development focusing on distinct pleasure-sensitive areas, which are the erogenous zones. And so this is a very nice graph of the psychosexual stages. So from 0 to 18 months, the stage is called the oral stage, in which the baby focuses on the pleasure centers on the mouth. Hence, they like to suck, bite, and chew their finger. And then when they become 18 to 36 months, they enter the anal stage, which focuses on bowel and bladder elimination. And according to Freud, this means they're coping with demands for control. And then from 3 to 6 is the phallic stage, in which the pleasure zone is the genitals, coping with incestuous sexual feelings. And so basically, when they enter the phallic stage, for example, boys might develop both unconscious sexual desires for their mother and jealousy and hatred for their father, according to Freud. And the boy might believe that their father is a rival. These feelings might lead to boys feeling guilty or to fear punishment from their father. And this brings us to the Oedipus complex, which occurs in the phallic stage, in which, again, as I mentioned, the boy's having sexual desire towards his mother and jealousy and hatred for his father. And on the other hand, for girls, there is they experience the parallel Electra complex, in which the girl is attracted to the father and hostile to the mother. And so these are the main terms in which children go through a process called identification, in which children incorporate their parents' values into their developing superegos. And then fixation, which is in psychoanalytic theory, when a lingering focus of pleasure-seeking energies at an earlier psychosexual stage, such as the oral, anal, phallic, or any other one, in which the conflicts are unresolved, will cause the person to be stuck in one of these stages. And there's also defense mechanisms, which are tactics that reduce or redirect anxiety by distorting reality. And it functions unconsciously and indirectly. For example, again, as I mentioned, through repression, which banishes anxiety-arousing wishes and feelings from consciousness. And thus, these repressed urges can appear as symbols in dreams, or the slip of the tongue. For example, a financially stressed patient not wanting a large pill when they are receiving care in a hospital might say, "Please don't give me any bills as I cannot swallow them." And bill is a slip of the tongue. And again, you can screenshot this, as this is a very nice table which shows the 7 different defense mechanisms, ranging from regression, which is retreating to an earlier psychosexual stage where energy remains fixated in that earlier stage, reaction formation, which is switching unacceptable impulses into their opposites. So for example, making a big show of expressing indifference about being on the stupid soccer team, when in actuality they really wanted to join the soccer team, but they were cut during the audition. The third one is projection, which is disguising one's own threatening impulses by attributing them to others. So again, using the example of a student responding to being cut from the soccer team, projection might be talking a lot about how mad his parent is at the coach, when in reality it is the student himself that is mad at the coach. Rationalization is offering self-justifying explanations in place of the real, more threatening unconscious reasons for one's actions. So for example, the student might explain that he wasn't working very hard in the tryouts and could have made the team if he really wanted to. Again, this serves as an excuse for why he was cut from the soccer team. Displacement is shifting sexual or aggressive impulses toward a more acceptable or less threatening object or person. So for example, the high school student might shift his anger towards his brother and yell at him for no reason. Sublimation is transferring unacceptable impulses into socially valued motives. So this is a more positive approach, healthy approach. For example, he might channel his anger and instead decide to join the cross-country running team, where all are accepted and he can still do a sport. Denial is refusing to believe or even perceive the reality of what has happened. So for example, the high school student might insist that there was an error on the team list and deny that he really was cut from the soccer team. And then repression is just pushing anxiety into the unconscious. And so the neo-Freudian and later psychodynamic theorists one of them were Carl Jung, Alfred Adler, and Karen Horney, which all agree that childhood is crucial, but they rather focus on how childhood's social tensions affect personality and not focus on the sexual aspect. So Adler believed that our behavior is driven by efforts to conquer childhood inferiority feelings. So this triggers the desire for superiority and power. Horney believed that childhood anxiety triggers our desire for love and security. And she also opposes the notion that women have weak superegos and have penis envy. And in fact, believes that men have vagina envy because the female private part is much more powerful as it can actually produce life. And then Carl Jung placed less emphasis on social factors, but believes that the unconscious contains more than repressed thoughts, and believe that we have collective unconscious, which is a common reservoir of images derived from our species' universal experiences, causing archetypes to form. For example, people in different cultures may share the same physically looking monster in mythology. Now, when it comes to assessing these unconscious processes, we have a few tests we can do. One is the projective test, which is a personality test such as the Rorschach that provides ambiguous images designed to trigger projection of one's inner dynamics. We also have the and one of the two of the types of the projective test is the thematic apperception test, which is a test by Murray, where people view ambiguous pictures and make up stories about them. This reveals inner feelings and interests. Another type of projective test is the Rorschach inkblot test, as I mentioned here, which is developed by Swiss psychologist Hermann Rorschach, where people describe what they see in a series of inkblots on pages. This allows them to identify people's inner feelings. However, it is said that this may possess low reliability and validity. For example, some say that it is reliable as it offers, and it should be offered to criminals to assess their potential in violence. However, some disagree and believe that it only works for people with cognitive impairment and thought disorder. Now, evaluating Freud's psychoanalytic perspective and modern views of the unconscious. Developmental psychologists today give credit to Freud for drawing attention to the vast unconscious. However, Freud's concept of repression have not survived scientific scrutiny, and research does not support many of Freud's specific ideas, such as the view that development is fixed in childhood, because we now know that it is lifelong. So, moving on to the modern unconscious mind, there is a very specific, very